Sup guys, Fat Archon here bringing another 40k review. Today we're going to be covering the true veterans of the Long War, the Black Legion. Gotta make the Warmaster proud. So we're going to be doing a full-on detachment review. Going to cover all their special rules, their enhancements, their stratagems. I got a few combos I'm really excited to show you guys. Some of the units that pop with them. And at the very end I got a few lists I want to show you. They'll hopefully give you an idea of the direction you can take them. By the way, there are a lot of freaking directions you can take these guys. So I'm really excited to show some of those off to you guys. As usual, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. At the very least, if you guys could give the video a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. Helps the metrics, gets more eyeballs on the channel. If you want to leave a comment below, that'd be great as well. Speaking of, I am always happy to answer any sort of questions you guys got, whether it's about veterans of the Long War, CSM, 40k in general, any of that sort of stuff. I will always, to the best of my ability, help out as much as I can. So for real, don't be afraid to reach out if you got any questions or suggestions whatsoever. With that all out of the way, though, so veterans of the Long War, the Black Legion, why should you play them? What makes them unique? What makes them special? Well, to start off, so I've seen a few people say they're basically like Space Marines that just have like a boring Oaths of the Moment ability. Basically, yeah, I've seen actually a lot of that. I'll be honest, so I came into it when I originally saw this army, yeah, I kind of saw that. For sure, I knew that there's more to it, but once I started preparing for this video, once I got some test games in and all that sort of stuff, no, man, these guys really shine. Again, legit, I am very excited to show off this attachment. There's a lot of perks to them. For one thing, this is probably the most well-rounded detachment I've ever seen, in all of 40k. Their rule, the whole reroll hits on your target, basically works for anything. And us being CSM, we have a bunch of rules that pop off that especially well. Dark Pacts is gonna love it. Anything at all that gives you reroll wounds is gonna especially love it. +1 to hits are gonna be fantastic. Anything along those lines are gonna especially pop with these guys. One thing I really love, they're great for both competitive and casual. I think, actually, they're, really good for getting familiar with CSM. If you are newer to Chaos Space Marines, maybe you're just expanding your collection or something, you're not too familiar with them, maybe it's your first time ever running one of their armies or whatever, these guys are perfect, because they're going to show you all the different sides of CSM. I really do think they shine there. Competitively, too, though, these guys have some of the more solid stratagems I've seen. Their enhancements are, they aren't too shabby whatsoever. Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, I think this is a great army. Again, if you're not familiar with CSM, or you're just trying to, improve at the game, get more competitive or whatever, these guys are fantastic. They're powerful into practically anything. That's another bonus to them. I do think they'll shine versus elites, so low model armies, especially Imperial Knights. These guys are perfect for Imperial Knights, because yeah, you can focus down one target at a time. That said, I think they're also going to shine into Hordes. So Orcs, or the new Chaos Cults. By the way, check out my review. I got really hyped on them too. That one was funny, because I went in hating them and talking, and actually the first half of the video, if you watch it, I am talking a lot of shit. But especially towards the end, once I start going over the list, clicked with me, oh my god, Chaos Cults might actually have some legs to it. But regardless, we're talking about veterans of the Long War here. I think they'll shine into literally anything, even a mixed army. I think they'll do fine. They have very good stratagems for countering melee armies, world eaters and stuff. They're gonna hate these guys so much. I have a really fun combo. I have a few really fun combos to show you guys towards the end of this that, yeah, man, you guys will see. They might just counter those sort of armies straight up. Another thing I love, Legionaries are going to absolutely pop off with these guys. Don't forget that they get the reroll wounds and melee, so that's huge. Normally they get reroll ones, but you can reroll all the wounds. Reroll hits, reroll wounds, you got Dark Pacts, you got God knows what other stratagems you toss on them. Yes, man, there's so much popping off with these guys. Beyond that, your elites are going to love them too. Anything with a 2-up save especially is really going to love it. Not only is it fluffy to bring Terminators and especially Chosen, that sort of stuff, come on, man, it's Abaddon's warband, of course they're gonna have the best of all the Chaos Space Marines. But beyond that, yes, the army meshes really well with the elites. You get the -1 AP, we'll get into that in a little bit, but there are a million little combos, million little ways you can run these guys. And again, they are sort of generic. I wouldn't say generic, that's not the word, they're general. So you can go whichever route you want, man. You want to go full on melee, you'll see, you can absolutely do that. There's definitely some units that pop there when you do it that way. You want to go full on shooting, of course you can do that. The classic, you can do the Abaddon Castle if you're boring like that. No, I'm joking. It was very powerful, there's a reason you saw it. But yeah, man, again, there's a million different ways to run these guys pretty much however you want. Maybe you got a really eclectic collection, it's all over the place or whatever, just toss them in this detachment, man. You'll definitely be able to find ways to make them work. Speaking of Abaddon, so this army, like, if you wanted to, it loves its hero hammer. I think, again, from a fluff perspective, it's perfect. If you're playing casual games, or again, a casual one, these guys are fantastic for it. They do have some pretty decent enhancements you can toss on the people. Again, the stratagems make them pop. Like, oh man, there's like nothing not to love about it. Yes, the rule looks generic at first, and we'll get into the specifics in a moment, but once you, like, look into it a little bit more, start considering some of the combos you can put together, very, very, very much, I think these guys are going to be, like, hyper competitive. Now, I will say, I guess one downside is they're going to be exceptionally command point starved. I'm pretty sure this is the only Legion with 2-point stratagems, or yeah, 2 command point stratagems, and they actually have 2 of them. I'm not sure the other Legions, if they have any at all, and if they do, they only have a single one. One of those stratagems is pretty big. You're going to be wanting to use that all the time, but yeah, I guess that would be one downside to consider. The other, if you could call it downside, these guys freaking hate Damned. Cultists do not mesh that well with these guys. Now, don't get me wrong, Cultist Mob is still, like, as good as always, still S tier in my eyes, 50 points for sticky objectives and all that sort of stuff, but you're really not going to be able to buff them much. But again, it's not like you're buffing cultists in the first place, so I wouldn't really call that a downside. Regardless, with that all out of the way, so we can get into the detachment rules. So they got Focus of Hatred. At the start of your command phase, select one enemy unit from your opponent's army to be your Focus of Hatred. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a Heretic Astartes model from your army, excluding Damned, makes an attack that targets your Focus of Hatred, you can reroll the hit roll. What I love, this is just, like, universally good. No matter what army you go into, it's going to be great. You could even, again, you could be fighting hordes, they could have nothing but crap units. Well, guess what, man? Maybe your CP region enhancement's going to pop off that. Better yet, you're fighting, like, hyper elites, like Custodes or Knights especially. This army, like, practically, assuming you got the right units, it's practically going to, like, hard counter Knights and those sort of armies, so I very much love that. I think another thing, it especially boosts up anything that already hits on 2s or can be buffed to hit up on 2s. Hello, Mr. Warpsmith. That sort of stuff, like, they're definitely gonna love that there. When you're hit on 2s with the rerolls and the dark packs, I'm pretty sure, I'm terrible at, like, math, but I'm pretty sure that's over 100% hit rate. It gets wild in that sense. Now, of course, there are a few data sheets where it doesn't necessarily mesh that well. So, for example, like Terminators, they can already, like, reroll hit rolls, like, baseline. You got Master Execution, that sort of stuff. Abaddon, his like, main aura that people usually use, that's not going to have as much use, but you got to think about it. First of all, Focus of Hatred, you only choose one target. All these guys, so your Terminator can shoot somebody else, Abaddon can give you rerolls for everything else. Like, it's not the worst thing ever that they don't mesh, like, perfectly there. But again, man, it's just such a solid ability that will pretty much always be useful. There's no times, no armies I can think of where you wouldn't want to use that. And dude, other armies would kill for reroll hits on all of their freaking units. Again, it is versus a specific unit, but still, other armies would kill for that. So while you could argue it's relatively generic or whatever, it's when you combine it with everything else that this detachment and just CSM in general is bringing along, nah man, it really pops off. Again, I'm like really hyped on this detachment. I think you'll definitely be seeing them like topping tournaments every now and then. They do have stiff competition as Renegade Raiders, maybe Deceptors. Like, are they gonna outshine them? I guess time will see. But for certain, I could see these guys beating even them out in like a head-to-head match. All depends on the general at that point. Regardless, so as you can see, I'm pretty hyped on it. Hopefully you guys agree with that. I would be interested to hear your guys' opinion, so definitely let me know if like you disagree or maybe I'm crazy or whatever. But regardless, so we can get in their enhancements. So they're not like the best on the planet, but again, just like their Detachment Rule and the Stratagem we're going to get into, they're solid, man. They're like all around solid. Even the like quote-unquote bad ones are still useful. Definitely way better than like Chaos Cults has and some of the other detachments. So yes, man, you're not left like screwed in that department. So first of all, we got Warmaster's Gift. Chaos Lord model only. Each time the bearer makes an attack that targets your Focus of Hatred, an unmodified successful wound roll of 5 up scores a critical hit. So this is probably best on just a regular Foot Lord with like Legionaries especially, because he does have the devastating wounds on his like hammer. Don't forget, you can buff him up with +1 damage, +1 strength, +1 AP. So yeah, you'll be able to sneak through a decent amount of dev wounds. Now, it is 15 points, so, like, if it was 10 points, yeah, I'd be bringing a lot more. At 15, I do kind of question it. That said, if you're going the Hero Hammer route, or, like, you just got the points left over or whatever, it's definitely a worthy addition. It's not the worst thing ever. I do wish it wasn't restricted to just Lords, because, like, Sorcerers and Master of Execution, anybody with Dev Wounds, basically, would have loved it. I will say, for what it's worth, it does affect his range output as well, so, there's some clever stuff going on there. Alright, next up we got Eager for Vengeance. The bearer's unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. While doing so, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets your focus of hatred, add 1 to the hit roll, and each time you select him for a charge, add 1 to the charge roll. So this is awesome in multiple ways. Obviously, fallback shoot and charge has a lot of utility to it. You can do like secondaries. You can get around screens. Obviously, you get to shoot and then charge again, so you can key that off. Lots of value there, just that alone. The second effect, though, remember, it affects the entire unit. So when you target your focus of hatred, you're getting +1 to hit, +1 to charge. The +1 to hit especially, because again, guys, you're going to be re-rolling all the hits, hitting on 2s, exploding 6s, or lethal 6s. Gets pretty wild there. And of course, +1 to your charges. Not the flashiest thing ever, but damn, dude, it makes it solid. How many boosts? You got 3 different boosts going on just with that one relic right there. I think it'd be great on any of the lords, because again, you can buff up Chosen, Legionaries, that sort of stuff. Jump Lord might like it, because he'll be able to jump over a screen, shoot something, and then charge something else. Your Raptors are going to love that. Now, I will say, there is some debate on the timing, and actually, if I were to get technical and go rules as written, so it says, while doing so, each time a model in your unit gets the +1 to hit and the +1 to charge. So does it only work when you're falling back from a unit? That is something I hope they clarify. I hope it's not like that, because for 20 points, that does take away a bit of the value. That said, man, again, fallback shoot and charge is a huge deal. I definitely like that one. I'm not positive it's an auto-include, but for sure, I would be trying to fit it into most lists, trying at the least bit. Alright, next up we got Eye of Abaddon. So this one's only 15 points. Heretic Astartes model only, excluding damned. While the bearer is on the battlefield, each time your focus of hatred is destroyed, roll a d6, and on a 4-up you gain 1 CP. So this could be the tricksy play, or it could work decently if you're doing tricky moves, where maybe you focus down a really weak unit, so you're almost guaranteed to wipe it out. That way you get to roll your regen each and every turn. Now it is still a 4-up, so even then it's still just a 50-50. That said, even if you don't choose a weak target or whatever, generally you're gonna be annihilating your focus of hatred most times. Obviously you're gonna choose the best target, some you can get good line of sight on, all that sort of stuff. So you have pretty good odds of murdering it each turn. I will say too, this detachment is incredibly command point starved, so anything that gets you regen does definitely have value. That said, again, it's only 50-50, so it's all up to the odds. On average, you'll get between 2 to 3 command points per game. So I like it. I genuinely do like it, but I think it's only something you bring if you happen to have points left over after you get your list together. Alright, last up we got Mark of Legend. So, Heretic Astartes model only. Once per turn, you can reroll 1 hit roll, 1 rune roll, or 1 saving throw. So, obviously, this is going to pop off on, a Demon Prince. Anything with, so mainly things with, a 2-up save, or hitting on 2s, of course. They're really going to love that. I guess, so the hitting on 2s, that doesn't matter. I don't know why I brought that up, because you're already going to be rerolling your hits most of the time. That said, it's not only to your focus of hatred or anything like that, so it will be kind of universally good. Also, for the Demon Prince specifically, he has that built into his profile as well, so you get to double that up. That is pretty huge. Demon Prince, you don't really see him that often, but with that enhancement right there, boom, man, he gains a bit of value. It's only 10 points as well. I really like that. Something else I really like, it can go on the Lord Discordant. A few of these enhancements can, in fact, and this guy has a 2-up save. I totally would be tempted to toss him on there. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. Again, though, I do think it especially shines. I would mainly be using that for save rolls, maybe wound rolls if it's critical or whatever, but mainly save rolls. So I would be looking at units with a 2-up save for the most part. So again, man, those are all solid. Almost all of those are solid. None of them are really a big stinker. Warmaster's Gift, the 5-up crit wounds, I wish it was 10 points. Then maybe it'd be pretty decent. But that's the only one I'd probably skip a lot of the time. Otherwise, man, all of those are again decent. I'd be very tempted to throw all of them in my list, especially if I was going for a really fun Hero Hammer army. Yeah, man, I think they definitely bring some value to the detachment. Definitely bring some value to CSM as a whole. Speaking of Value City, though, so we'll get onto their stratagems. This is where these guys, especially pop. I think they have some crazy good ones. To start off, so this one isn't crazy good. So, Endless Ire costs 2 command points, In any phase, just after you destroy your Focus of Hatred, you can choose one Heretic Astartes character from your army, excluding Damned. You select one enemy unit within 12 inches and visible. Until the start of your next command phase, that new enemy is now your new Focus of Hatred. So there's a lot of parts that kind of suck with this. Costing 2 CP sucks. Having to be within 12 inches with a character sucks. Having to be visible kind of sucks. So there's definitely a whole lot of drawbacks with it. That said, maybe it's like a vital turn. Maybe you're fighting Imperial Knights and you already wiped out like 3/4 of their army, so why not toss it on something else? There are definitely still uses there, but that's one that like you're gonna rarely use it, but definitely try to remember it. Try not to forget it for when it does come up, but that's yeah, it's one of the stinkers for sure. Alright, next up we got Black Crusade. So in your movement phase, you can choose one Heretic Astartes infantry or mounted unit, excluding Damned, as always. Just assume, I'm going to quit saying the Damned, because just assume nothing works on Damned. They really do hate these guys. But until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot in a turn in which it advanced or fell back. Also, bolt pistols, bolt guns, and combi bolters equipped by models in your unit have the Devastating Wounds ability, so long as you can't, well, you can't do more than 6 wounds with that ability. So I do like that. I don't think it's like fantastic or whatever, but I do think it's great. It's very utilitarian. That's what I especially like, especially for like secondaries and doing actions, that sort of stuff. When the new mission pack comes out, who knows how the actions are going to go, like how common they're going to be. So I do like that there. That's definitely the best part of it. As for the Devastating Wounds, now that part's kind of a stinker. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you would have to make 36 successful hits in order to max that out, because you only get the dev wounds on 6s. I guess you could give it on 5s if you got Warmaster's Gift or whatever, but regardless, that one I kind of like, that part I don't really like. You could, there is still value there. If something, maybe it has like a 2-up save, it's super pain in the ass to kill, but only has like 1 or 2 wounds left on it, yeah, you know, maybe roll the dice there, see if you can wipe it out with the dev wounds alone, but otherwise, like, yeah, you totally just use it for that first part, so that you can advance or fall back and shoot. Again, that definitely has value, very utilitarian. Ooh, alright, next up, so this is where they start popping off. So, Contemptuous Disregard. In your opponent's shooting phase, or the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, one Heretic Astartes unit from your army that was selected as the target. Until the end of the phase, each time attack targets your unit, worsen the armor pin by 1. So this is huge in literally like every single army you see it in. Where it's really huge here, it's a battle tactic. Suddenly, Chaos Lords just gained a shitload of value. Jump Lords, Termi Lords, all those sort of guys, like they're gonna love it. Gonna use it twice every single turn. And by the way, those are almost always like an auto use. So long as it's not like AP 5 or something wild coming in. Yeah, you pretty much always use those. Again, so like I was saying earlier, characters are going to love it. Anything with a 2-up save is going to really love that, especially. And with how universal cover saves are in 10th edition, like, yeah, man, it's really going to add up. That is incredibly powerful, again, for every detachment that gets it, and it's solid. It's just so solid, man. Like, anytime you see it, you, like, perk up. You're like, yes, we're on the right track. Alright, next up, we got Let the Galaxy Burn. So, obviously, Abaddon named that one. So, in your shooting phase, one Heretic Astartes unit from your army, excluding Tzeentch, so no Rubric, sadly, that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Ignores Cover ability. In addition, change the attacks characteristic of Torrent weapons equipped by models in your unit to 6. So, unfortunately, it doesn't work on Rubrics, but that's fair, man. That would be busted. Everybody would be bringing like 3 squads of those every single list if that was a thing. However, it doesn't affect Nurgle, so if you were to bring, like, Plague Marines, I think you're going to love that a lot. Be able to get, they have, what, 4 Flamers if you're bringing a max squad, so that'd be just 24 shots on its own. Half of those are going to be Anti-Infantry 2-up, the other half are going to be Anti-Infantry 4-up, that's giant. It finally gives CSM, like, pretty good play into Overwatch. That's something we don't typically have. Also, on top of that, it's a battle tactic. Ignores cover is probably bigger than everything else, though. Ignores cover is the same, well, essentially the same as +1 AP. Again, it's a battle tactic, so 2 separate units can take advantage of that and essentially get +1 AP on their shooting specifically. Oh man, it is, yeah, that is giant. Again, Plague Marines are gonna love it. Maybe even like Defilers are gonna love it. There's not really any restrictions. Freaking Lord Discordant's definitely gonna love it. He's got his Flamer. Yeah, man, there's a lot to love there. are. Speaking of love and stuff, so next up, we got Bringers of Despair. So this one's kind of spendy. It is 2 command points, but at the start of the fight phase, 1 Heretic Astartes unit from your army that is within engagement range of your Focus of Hatred. Until the end of the phase, your unit has Fight First. So this is wild. This is crazy good. Fight First is like busted. Remember how they had to nerf the hell out of Custodes? I'm sorry, I'm sorry for your loss. Well, there's a reason they did it. Now, luckily, it is pretty balanced out. So being 2 command points is pretty nice, or not nice, but it is pretty fair. I will say, when we get into combos, there's gonna be some fun stuff to bring up, but hey, what's up, Mr. Defiler? Yeah, I think that's incredibly powerful. Yeah, like, and you're, I'm like stumbling over my words, it's so freaking good. Anytime you know it's coming up, of course you're gonna make your Focus of Hatred like the key target. They're not gonna want to charge you, man. This is like an anti-World Eaters, anti-like Tyranids, anti-any other like melee army, anti-CSM, all that sort of stuff. Again, as long as you got the command points set aside, they're not gonna want to charge you. If you got a big fat blob, it's unrestricted aside from Damn too. So literally you could have Abaddon waiting with his like Terminators or Chosen or whatever, just waiting like, come on man, I'm waiting right here, like, come on. Maybe they shoot you instead and then you do the subtract 1 from the armor pin instead. Man, there's so much beauty to it. I really love that. I think it's ultra powerful. And then last up, they're going to end it with a bang. So, Millennia of Experience. In your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move, 1 Heretic Astartes infantry or mounted unit from your army that is within 9 inches of that enemy unit and not within engagement range, you can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. That is gigantic. Only costs 1 CP this time, luckily. Reactive moves are one of the best like stratagems / abilities in the entire game, for obvious reasons. If you're in line of sight, you can move behind cover. If you need to get into charge range, you can move closer to them. If you're right outside of an objective, you can step onto it. Maybe they just out objective control you, well, you can get more bodies on there. Like, every little way you can think of it, it's powerful, man. Again, there's some combos that I'll come up with later that also keys off of. Yes, man. Overall, these stratagems are like insanely good. So again, some of the most solid ones I've seen like in the book, potentially in all of 10th edition. Almost all of them are useful. The first one, the 2 CP to change your target. Again, every now and then it'll be useful, but that's the one that I'm, like, not so sold on. All the others, though, yeah, man, you could totally be using them every single turn. Now, do be aware, we're gonna be, like, ultra, like, command point starved, so definitely be thinking of, like, be planning those out as best as you can, and be finding ways to, like, regen CP. Now, Abaddon, he does regen CP. It's not as easy as it was before. I believe you have to get a leadership of 8+, which is, like, a 40% chance, something like that. There is also that enhancement. You can also always discard some of your secondaries, so try to keep those in mind. These guys are gonna be starving for it, especially if you're trying to like do a gotcha. Of course, it's not truly a gotcha. You always warn your opponent, but if you're trying to gotcha somebody with the fight first, definitely be saving those up if you're able to. I would think the subtract 1 from AP and the reactive moves, those are ones you're going to use like literally every single turn. I see like zero reason not to use them. So again, you're going to be starved for it, but at least it's for a good reason. So hopefully you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, that like everything's starting to come together here. But now we can start going over some of their units. So I did, man, there were so many options. I had to like, because again, this detachment can go pretty much any route you want to. So it was kind of hilarious. I definitely had to cut some out because otherwise we'd basically be going over the entire codex. But some of these guys are especially going to pop here. Again, characters are going to love this attachment. So if that's a style you like, you're in the right place. Again, I had to even cut some out. Like, Dark Apostle would love it with the +1 to wound. He would have no problem being here. Huron, we will get to him in a little bit, but Huron's not, like, highlighted. Like, yeah, man, there's a million little guys that you can toss in there. I'm very excited to get this attachment out there. Hopefully, some of these units and the list I'm going to show you in a minute, like, are sparking some ideas on your end. Alright, to start off though, we got the big man himself, Mr. Abaddon. So he did get some changes from the index, so this card's a little old, but it's not much different than it was. The big change is going to be his Dark Destiny. So each time this model makes a Dark Pact and does not fail, well, it used to be and does not fail the leadership, you roll on a 2-up. Now, each time you take a Dark Pact, if you pass the leadership on a 7-up, you gain a CP. So that's actually a pretty big deal with this attachment, because again, man, they're going to be CP starved. His other abilities though, the Warmaster. So you get to choose between 1 of 3 auras that don't affect Damned anymore, but that's not a big deal. This detachment hates Damned, so it's not like you're relying on them, I hope. The first one's still ultra good, so Paragon of Hatred. While a friendly Heretic Astartes is within 6 inches of this model, each time that model makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll. So first of all, what's cool is it's unrestricted, so it works on anything. Vindicators, Defilers, Infantry, whatever it is, Plague Marines, doesn't matter. They still get to take advantage of it. Now, it does clash with the Detachment Rule, but there are going to be situations, maybe you obliterate your freaking Focus of Hatred in just one round. Maybe you start off with your Vindicator, he just annihilates the guy, you roll like all 6s on everything, and he's just gone. Well, cool, man, Abaddon can still help you spread the love around, so there is still value there. That said, I think more often, you're probably going to be relying on the Mark of Chaos Ascendant. So, Heretic Astartes infantry and mounted within 6 inches, they all get a 4-up invul save. That is huge, man. If you've been dreaming of doing like an infantry spam list, well, guess what, man? You just found your leader. Like, that was pretty quick. Mounted like it too, so the Lord Discord, and he'll have a 4-up invul. I like that there. Bikers got their price reduced. They're only 70 points now. They're so cheap. 9 wound T5, well, 9 wound equivalent. T5 for only 70 points with the 12-inch move. That's huge. I definitely think the Mark of Ascendant, that's probably going to be the route I go in most situations. His last one is, you're probably never going to use it, but Lord of the Traitor Legions, basically, friendly Heretic Astartes within 6 inches, they can reroll their leadership and battle shocks. Maybe, now, that could still be important. Maybe it's turn 5 and it's a really close game. I would actually consider, like, switching over to that, just so you don't have to, like, risk it or whatever. But regardless, this guy brings a lot of value to the army. On top of that, we didn't even go over the rest of them. So, T5, 2-up save and a 4-up invul with 9 wounds. He is pretty spendy, but he did drop 15 points, so like, hell yeah, man, he's not nearly as spendy as he was. On top of that, he has crazy good damage output. Dev wounds, so in melee, you got dev wounds, 8 attacks, hitting on 2s, reroll all your hits, strength 14, minus 4 AP, 3 damage. This guy's a butcher when you get into melee. If you get into like a chaff or a screen or whatever, he'll have 14, negative 3 AP attacks. Like, that's just gonna butcher those guys. Strength 7, so often we win on 2s. I do think Abaddon is still valid. I have seen people talking about, like, yeah, he's not good in the Veterans of the Long War. I disagree. And especially if you're going for the fluffy route, like, we're not always playing like hyper competitive. If you're going for just a fun list or whatever, hell yeah, you bring Abaddon, man. He's a beautiful centerpiece. I definitely think he pops with this detachment. Next up, we got the Demon Prince on foot. So the reason I really like him here is the enhancement. The enhancement that lets you reroll one hit, wound, or save roll, because he already has Ascended Demon on his profile. Each time he shoots or fights, while resolving those attacks, you can reroll 1 hit roll, and you can reroll 1 wound roll. It's not even or like the enhancement. So, dude, you get to double up on the fun there. Yeah, that definitely adds some power to this dude. He is a bit spendy. He did get dropped to 165, so, like, once you consider, like, he's basically guaranteed, he's like gonna have 100%, over 100% hit rate, and then with the reroll of wounds, he's gonna have damn good wound rate. Yeah, I think this guy definitely does have some like real value. On top of that, you can customize him pretty much however you want. I would probably go Khorne most of the time. Khorne's gonna let you add 2 to the strength, so suddenly your strike profile is gonna be strength 10, minus 2 AP, 3 damage each, so that's pretty damn good. The other route would be Nurgle, add 1 toughness, that way he's T11, you have a super tanky character for your army. Maybe you don't already own Abaddon, and you want a big beat stick. Demon Prince makes a perfect choice in that case. Next up, we got the Lords. So both of them. I put both the Lords together. In fact, all 3. We'll get to him in a second. I think the Foot Lord is probably better overall. But regardless, the big reason you guys are bringing him is going to be that Lord of Chaos ability. So once per battle round, 1 unit from your army with this ability can be targeted with a battle tactic for free, even if another unit had already used that stratagem. We've already gone over how good those stratagems are. Like, some of the big ones are already battle tactics. The minus 1 AP, the ignores cover, both of those, definitely getting value there. Also, for the Foot Lord, why I like him better, his Chance for Glory. So once per battle, at the start of the fight phase, you can use your ability. If you do, until the end of the phase, you improve the strength, attacks, armor pin, and damage of your melee weapons by 1. He has dev wounds on top of that. You're usually going to go the hammer. In fact, with this detachment, you're always going to go the hammer because you're rerolling all the hits anyways. Why wouldn't you? Maybe you throw Warmaster's Gift, the relic on there. Suddenly he's getting dev wounds on 5-ups. 3 damage each, AP 3, strength 9. Yeah, dude, I definitely think this guy pops. And then with the Terminators, so Terminators are going to be great in this detachment period, even though they already reroll the hits. Like I already mentioned, you can like divvy out the love with the rerolls. You don't only have to focus on your Focus of Hatred. He doesn't have nearly as much damage. Well, he doesn't have as much damage as the other guy, but he does have Formidably Resilient. So basically, any attacks that come in, whether it's melee or shooting, you have the damage. So this guy is like a little trooper, very hard to take out. A somewhat clever, okay, you probably would never do it, but a somewhat clever way of doing it, you could do, first option is Chain Fist. You have Anti-Vehicle 3-up, so, you know, that's okay there. But better yet, paired or cursed weapons with the Twin Linked. That way you'd always be rerolling your hits and your wounds. That's stupid because it's not 2 damage, and come to think of it, the Terminators are already going to give you rerolls, so like, alright, I don't know why I brought that up, but maybe run them solo. Or maybe you need to clear chaff or something. But either way, it's something to think about, because this guy does have similar. He has the twin lightning claws that are twin linked. Now, it's not 2 damage, but I do like the fact that you always would be, well, practically always, would be rerolling all your hits and your wounds. You attach them with the Raptors. They're not bad at all in melee. I do think this guy has value there. Better yet, though, he also has the Lord of Chaos ability, so you still get a free stratagem on your Raptors. They're definitely going to love it. Maybe they want to do the Let the Galaxy Burn, so they get their flamers popping off with 12 shots. You probably wouldn't do that. You'd almost always bring the Melta, but regardless, it's an option. His other ability I especially like, so Cruel Hunter. While this model is leading a unit, each time that unit piles in or consolidates, each model in that unit can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. So that's great, man. Gets you on the objectives, lets you tie up units, especially if they're infantry shooting. So if you're having a mirror match, you're like tying up Havocs or Obliterators, that'd be beautiful. Yeah, I do think Chaos Lord with jump pack, definitely valid. He's only 90 points. He's actually cheaper than I originally thought he would be. I thought he'd be 95, but he's only 90. Yeah, definitely valid option to look at. Raptors pop in pretty much every army, and of course they'll pop here too. Next up, we got one of the, so as time's gone on, as I've done all these detachment reviews, I've realized this guy's one of the best, like, leaders in the game. Not even leader, but just character. Sorcerer and Terminator armor. This guy's definitely going to pop at this list. We'll get into it with the combo in a bit, but you got Death Hex. So, at the start of your shooting phase, one Psyker with this ability can use it. If you do, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches invisible. You roll a dice. On a 1, it's really going to suck, you just hurt yourself, but on a 2-up, until your next movement phase, each time an attack targets that enemy unit, improve the armor pin by 1. So there's multiple reasons that's awesome. First of all, you got the obvious bit. Freaking improves the armor pin by 1. Your army's going to love that. Literally every unit in your army is going to get +1 AP. That's a gigantic boost in 10th edition with how common cover saves are. On top of that, it lasts until your next movement phase, and it goes off in your shooting phase. So that's what? That's 4 freaking phases, 2 turns that you get to take advantage of it. It's gigantic. This guy's only 95 points. I'm starting to think that, yeah, he's an auto-include with probably every single, like, detachment. If you're going, like, optimized or, like, super competitive or whatever, yeah, man, I think Sorcerer and Terminator armor is, like, ultra good. What I love, too, he doesn't at all need to be attached to a unit. He does, like, you know, that gives him some safety, but even on his own, he has Chaos Familiar. So, once per battle, when an attack is located to the bearer, you can change the damage characteristic to 0. On top of that, he's got a freaking Terminator profile. So, he's T5, 2-up save with a 4-up invul and 5 wounds. He's not going to be easy to kill. He has decent shooting, so D6, Strength 6, -2 AP, D3 damage attacks that have dev wounds. So, D6 multi-damage attacks going out there, that's not bad in the least bit. His melee is like okay, it's nothing to write home about, but it's okay. Strength 6, -1 AP, D3 damage each. I should remember too, none of these are going to be just -2 AP or -1. They're all going to go up in AP. So shooting's actually -3, and his melee be -2. Yeah, man, I definitely think this guy's like big time, like big league character in my opinion. He also has warp time, so if you do attach him to a squad, you can reroll your advance and charges. Where that's great is if you're deep striking. And how I run this guy, how I normally do, I pretty much always deep strike him. That way I can near guarantee that I can like get my Death Hex target within range, and then with the reroll, that 9-inch charge, it is a pain in the butt, but with the reroll, you have much better odds than just like rolling it on its own. Yeah, man, very much. I think Terminator Sorcerer, if you guys haven't already been, like, running this guy, go out and get one, throw it in your next list, and just, like, watch the fireworks, man. He is that good. Alright, next up, we got Warpsmith. So, he doesn't, like, necessarily benefit from the Detachment Rule. You're not really going to be, like, shooting or fighting with this guy that often. I would hope, at least. Like, I definitely keep mine out of combat if I can help it. But, where he's like a huge deal, giving +1 to hit with your vehicles, and they're rerolling all their hits, and they have dark packs on top of that, that's a big deal, man. Vindicators especially are going to love it. Forgefiends are going to love it. Forgefiend's got a point drop, thank God, thank the Dark Gods, so you'll probably start seeing them again. If Hordes are as big as thing as they're seeming like, Forgefiend's going to start popping off more, well, suddenly they're hitting on 2s, again, rerolling everything, gets pretty wild there. Combo it with the Sorcerer, you know, like, yeah, man, it gets awesome. On top of that, he can heal wounds, so that's pretty awesome. Like, it's not the best, it's only D3, but still helps keep your guys alive. He also has lone op if he's within 3 inches of a vehicle. Obviously, you're going to keep him, like, stapled to vehicles, so, like, he'll pretty much always have that. And then lastly, he has Enraged Machine Spirits. At the end of your movement phase, select one enemy vehicle within 12 inches. Doesn't have to be visible or nothing. That model must take a Battle Shock test. So, It's a battle shock. You gotta be within 12 inches. It's not the greatest thing ever, but there will be times when that comes up, especially if they're like holding down a primary objective or something like that. They're gonna be sweating a little bit, man. The odds aren't that high that they're gonna fail it, but if they do, they're gonna be pretty screwed over. I do like the Warpsmith. He's only freaking 70 points. He's got a 2-up save. Like, yeah, this guy's very valid in pretty much every army, but especially valid here, again, when you got your focus of hatred going off. Alright, next up, we got the sort of meme pick, but if you guys haven't been watching my videos or know me that well, I freaking love the Lord Discord, and I'm looking for literally any reason to bring him. I do think he genuinely, I think he has a strong ability for this specific army too. Spirit Thief. At the start of your shooting phase, select one enemy vehicle within 12 inches of this model. Doesn't have to be visible or nothing. Until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Heretic Astartes model makes an attack that targets that unit, you reroll a wound roll of 1. So again, guys, you're rerolling all the hits, now you're rerolling wound rolls of 1. Now, it does only target vehicles, but often that's like the target you're going to choose as your focus anyways. I do think there's like valid like use there. Now, he is ultra expensive, so he is like, you know, we are like slightly leaning into meme territory here. That said, he has a good profile. 10-inch move is fantastic. T9 with a 2-up save. 5-up invol, potentially a 4-up invol if you got Abaddon there, 10 wounds, so that's all valid. Oh yeah, and his other ability too is like totally, it's actually really good, man. Corrupt Machine Spirits. Once per turn, at the start of your opponent's shooting phase, select one enemy vehicle within 12 inches and visible. That unit must take a leadership test. If it's passed, they have to subtract 1 from all their hit rolls. If it fails, that unit is not eligible to shoot anymore. Imagine, you got Imperial Knights, man. They fail their test because you got lucky. They can't shoot at all. Oh, and then on my turn, I'm going to put Spirit Thief on you. I'm going to reroll all my hits and wound rolls of 1 into you. Oh, man, I do love it a lot. Again, he's mounted, so there is actually a perk there. Anytime he gets locked into combat, he can't be shot, unlike other vehicles. He's relatively, for his cost, he's fragile. For his cost, he is fragile. I do hope, man, like, seriously, pray to the Dark Gods with me that the next points update, they freaking fix this guy. I was expecting it to happen for this one, but they didn't. I don't know what GW, like, what their issue with this guy is, but regardless, there are ways to run this guy. I do think he's valid, especially with that Spirit Thief ability. Alright, next up, rounded like the actual foot sloggers, the core of your list. So first of all, we got Legionaries. These guys are ultra gonna pop in this detachment because, dude, it's their freaking namesake. So their ability, Veterans of the Long War. Each time a model in this unit targets an enemy unit with a melee attack, reroll a wound roll of 1. If that enemy unit is within range of an objective marker, you can reroll all the wound rolls. So obviously, these guys have 2 objective control, their battle line. You're gonna be fighting over objectives most of the time, so you're gonna get a lot of use out of those reroll wounds. Again, reroll hits, reroll wounds. It affects the entire unit, by the way, so you have a character attached. Suddenly he's going to reroll those. Maybe got the Lord with the relic, so he's getting 5-up dev wounds. Lots and lots and lots of value. On top of that, they're freaking only 80 points, man. They can bring a last cannon. They have the heavy melee weapons. They have a boatload of chain swords. These guys are one of the best battle line in the entire game. I'm not even sure it's like debatable. Maybe Rubric's outdo them in the Thousand Suns army. Like, I could see debate there, but regardless, these guys are so good. Pretty much any and every list like needs at least one Legionary. Truthfully, bring a lot more. And for sure, there will be lists as time goes on that just like spams them. You bring 60 of these guys. Like, how fun would that be? And very powerful on top of it. Next up, so I mentioned them earlier, you got Plague Marines. Where they really pop off is going to be the Flamers. You combo that with the Let the Galaxy Burn. Like I mentioned earlier, man, that's an automatic 24 shots just from the Flamers with Anti-Infantry 2-up, ignores cover, and then Anti-Infantry 4-up, ignores cover. Dude, that is huge. Combo it with the Sorcerer Lord. The Plague Spears are going to be AP 2. The Plague Belchers are going to be AP 1. Oh, man, and again, they already have ignore cover. Like, those are all giant. I will say their ability is, like, worthless. While they're within range of objective marker, you can add 1. If they take a battle shock, you add 1 to their leadership. It has a little bit of value on like holding down objectives. They are objective control 2, by the way, and they are T5. They're a little slow, 5-inch move, but you can always toss them on a Rhino or whatever. Very much, I think Plague Marines are like definitely worth like considering for this detachment especially. Next up, so these ones kind of funny. So the Let the Galaxy Burn doesn't work on the Rubrics. Unfortunately, they're Tzeentch. That said, you can still run them with the Inferno Bolt Guns instead. That's something I'm going to experiment with, because again, you combo it with like a Sorcerer, you can get the -2 AP, suddenly they're rerolling all the hit rolls, and then the reason I say that is that the Bringers of Change ability, each time I'm out on this unit, makes a ranged attack, reroll wound rolls of 1. If the target's within range of an objective marker, you reroll all the wound rolls, so you'll have even a 24-inch range. That's the big perk over the Flamers. 24-inch range, you'd have 20 shots, AP2, reroll all hits, all wounds. Dude, that gets pretty wild there. Obviously, you'd probably bring 2 Soul Reaper cannons on top of that. They got the Dev wounds. Yeah, dude, these guys really pop off. It is unfortunate that they can't take advantage of that stratagem, but it'd be way too busted. So like I said, I need to experiment with these guys, because I would assume that the Warp Flamers is still the best way to go. And in that case, they're not getting as much value out of this detachment. They're just like sort of whatever they bring on their own. Oh, I should mention too, their Icon of Flame works. Pretty much anytime they get a critical wound, you improve the AP by 1. So you can bump them up to AP3 if you're comboing with the Sorcerer. Rubric's definitely worth looking at. They are one of the best battle line in the game. I will say they definitely obviously pop off way better in their own army, Thousand Suns, but hopefully, as you're seeing, definitely bring value even to CSM. Next up, we got Chosen. So, of course, I had to bring these guys. This is freaking Veterans of the Long War. These are the literal veterans of the Long War. They're like Chosen of the Gods. So, dude, they're great. They're meaty. 3 wounds, 3-up save, T5, you can give them a 4-up invul with their next Abaddon, so definitely pretty nice there. On top of that, they can advance, fall back, and shoot and charge, so that is ultra powerful. Again, for secondaries, objectives, that's great. For getting around screens, that's great. For, clearance, so falling back, shooting it, and then charging something else, that's great. Lots of value there. They are stuck with 1 damage for the most part. You can bring a Power Fist along, but otherwise they're mostly stuck with the Accursed Weapons. But again, man, combo that with like Sorcerer Lord, for example, get them up to AP3, they do start doing some like damn good power there. If you really want to pop them off, you can like attach Fabius, then they're going up to T5, Strength 6 on most of their stuff. I definitely like Chosen, and again, if you're going the fluffy route especially, Chosen are definitely worth looking at. On the same token, we got Terminators. So generally, Terminators, they're generally a little too spendy for my liking. That said, in this detachment, they have like genuine value. A huge part of that's going to be your Armor of Contempt equivalent. The fact that you can reduce AP coming in, like that's pretty big. You combo that with a cover save on top of it. Dude, these guys are going to be super hard to clear out. T5, 2-up save, 4-up invul, and again, you can do the subtract 1 AP. Daddy likey. On top of that, they got Despoilers. So no matter what, even if it's not your focus of hatred, they're always going to be rerolling hits, because you're always going to do Dark Pacts with these guys. You can give 4 out of 5 Power Fist or Chain Fist. Always go with Power Fist, by the way. So they do have, like, real damage output. They are a little spendy. 185 is a little rich for my blood. But again, if you're going the fluffy route, or you got some, like, fun little combos, or like, little themes going on for your list, they definitely do bring, like, actual value to the army. Next up, we got Havocs. So I think where these guys especially pop off, first of all, I've been experimenting with a boatload. Most of my lists lately, since like the Codex League, most of my lists have been running at least 1 Havocs. With this army though, where I think they're like especially good, is if you bring Abaddon along. Because not only do you got the Focus of Hatred, so you reroll all their hits, that's already gigantic. Again, never forget the Dark Pacts. But on top of that, you can give them like a 4-up invul, so they're actually resilient. These guys normally die like flies, like pretty quickly, because they're just, aside from the T5, they're basically just like generic Marines, so they do die when they get shot at. But again, with Abaddon next to him, like, yeah, man, they'll actually be survivable. How I generally do it, I bring this up every time, but I normally bring 2 squads, one of them with all las cannons, and the other with all chain cannons. Chain cannons have been, like, surprising me, man. They've been really good lately. Into hordes, especially. So, orcs, chaos cults, if you see that ever. Those sorts of armies, especially with the reroll hits, you definitely start getting into, like, Value City with them. For only 120 points, I think they're still... It's debatable if they're even better than Predators, because you gotta remember, they can move through walls, they can help you do secondaries, because usually Predators are, like, off doing their own thing. You really don't want to lose a turn of shooting with the Predator. These guys are only 120 points. It's really not that big a deal. As usual, Havocs are very, very, very valid for literally any list you toss them into. Next up, though, so these guys are the all-stars, not only of CSM, but especially this list. So the reason being, they have twin-linked Warp Claws. If you go into your Focus of Hatred, you are always rerolling all hits, all wounds with freaking so min squad, only 5 of them, be 20 attacks, strength 5, minus 2 AP, potentially minus 3 AP. Again, rerolling all the hits and wounds. On top of that, they have a crazy good ability. So this card is out of date. This is from the index. Their new ability, if you at the end of the fight phase, if you had been eligible to fight at some point in that during that phase, but you're no longer eligible to fight, basically you're no longer in engagement, you can go into strategic reserves. There's a billion reasons that's useful. You can do secondaries. You can screen. Not that you would with like a deep striker, but you could. You can put them into reserves and then wait till turn 5, bring them down for like behind enemy lines. You can flank your opponent. Bazillion reasons. Warp Talons, this is the detachment I think they're best in, because again, you get reroll all hits and all wounds on what's already one of the best units in the entire game. People are freaking out about how good Warp Talons are. Next up, though, so we got Helbrute. So again, when you're rerolling all your hits, and so you're getting more of your dark packs, you're getting more chances for your dark packs, I think Helbrute especially pops here. So, Dark Ascension Aura, it's a 6-inch aura, it affects anything, not just infantry or something like that, and basically they get both sustained and lethal. That's huge, man. There will definitely be situations where, like, you need the lethal more than the sustained. Well, guess what? You get both of them. It's great there. Second of all, they buffed his data sheet, so Helbrute Fist is gone. Now, if you bring 2 melee weapons, you get to add +2 attacks to each of their profiles. So if you go the hammer route, suddenly you're getting 7 attacks, strength 14, AP 3, D6 +1 damage. So you got like melee anti-tank. The other route, you can go power scourge. So if you want anti-infantry, you get 10 attacks, strength 7, -1 AP, 2 damage each. Don't forget, he benefits from his own aura. So all of that gets both the sustained and the lethal. So that's pretty huge. Other route is you can still stick with like mixed or like range profile, so you can give him a twin-linked freaking las cannon, reroll all hits, reroll all wounds. You can give him a twin-linked autocannon, similar deal there. I very much like the Helbrute. 130 points. Now they finally have like fixed the points on some of the other things, like Mauler Fiend is same price, that sort of stuff. He's not quite as efficient as he was, but again, for like this army and a lot of the other ones, I do think Helbrute's like worth looking at and worth bringing along. Also, I absolutely love his model. I think it's beautiful. It's a lot smaller in person, but I love the Helbrute. Next up, ooh boy, am I glad I can finally bring up a Defiler. This is one of my favorite models ever. The freaking Murder Crab, man. Like, who doesn't love this guy? So first of all, he's a beast, man. He's especially in melee. He's a freaking beast. Defiler Claws. 5 attacks, strength 16, -3 AP, D6 +1 damage. This guy's perfect for tank shocks, I might add. He has Scuttling Walker, so he can get over terrain and like other vehicles and sort of stuff like relatively easily, so long as they're 4-inch in height or less. Now, don't get me wrong, he is a pain to get around the table, but you can like, when you're modeling him, you can like make the legs a bit more narrow than he would normally be. Definitely got value there. On top of that, though, he got one of the biggest buffs I've seen so far. Basically, he can use the counterattack stratagem for free, even if somebody else used it. That part's huge. Counterattack so in your opponent's fight phase, after they have fought once, you get to fight next. So basically, if somebody charges you, you get to fight directly after them. That's gonna, dude, what that's gonna mean, it should be obvious, if they're not gonna want to charge with multiple units. They're only gonna ever want to charge with 1 unit. Don't forget, you have the fight first stratagem as well. So, oh my god, man, it gets wild. I think Defiler is actually like a sneaky little combo to bring along with Veterans of the Long War. Because, yeah, you pop the fight first on one of your units, hopefully the key one that they really did charge. If they did charge with multiple units, hopefully Defiler's in there too. He goes off next. Guess what? You can still use counterattack. Now, you would have to be smart. You'd have to use counterattack before this guy. But I believe you'd immediately use this guy's counterattack immediately after. Like, you wouldn't have to wait for another unit to attack. Somebody comment below. I might be wrong on that. I would need to read the exact wording on counterattack, but I believe you might be able to do them back to back. Either way, man, that opens up huge combos. On top of that, he has a great profile, so 8-inch move, relatively quick. T10, 14-inch move, 3-up save, and a 5-up invul, so like he's fairly resilient. 5 objective control is actually pretty huge. If you're up against scouts or something like that, like he has pretty good odds of wiping them out enough so he can take the objective. Oh man, I'm so happy I get to like love on the Defiler all again. He used to be completely a meme. Now that he got that huge buff with the free counterattack, no man, he's real. You're gonna start seeing this guy. Now, he's not as good as in Soulforged Warpack. Keep your eye out for that video, but but definitely Value City, man. 190 points, a little spendy, but like he's worth it. He's worth every penny of it. You gotta think too, his twin lascan, if you go that route, it's twin linked. Reroll all hits, reroll wounds, man. There is a lot to love with this guy. Oh, I'm so excited to play Defiler. Next up, we got Predator. So this guy especially, there's 2 themes. First of all, if you combo him with the Sorcerer, you get an extra +1 AP. He also, so always bring the Destructor version, the anti-infantry. His Destructor ability, though, if you target an infantry, you get an additional AP, so that's +2 already. And then, guess what? You use Let the Galaxy Burn stratagem on this guy and ignores cover. You can get this guy up to +3 AP equivalent into infantry. Suddenly, he becomes some of the most efficient damage output in the entire game. This guy is wild. How I always run him if you do bring him. So again, autocannon version every single time. I'm pretty sure it's been like decided that, yeah, that's way better than the anti-tank version, but you give him las cannons on top of that. That way he becomes anti-everything. He still has the combi bolter and the havoc launcher for clearing out chaff. This guy is like an all-star. When I do the tier list, you best believe this guy's going to be in the S tier. If you haven't been running Predators, maybe they've been sitting on your shelf for the last decade, nah man, go dust them off like I had to, and get them ready, man, because yeah, these guys are pop, especially in Veterans of the Long War. Next up, we got Forgefiend. So again, Forgefiend's got a price break. Thank God, man. 200 was like, it was just over where it was usable. I think they only dropped 10, so they're 190, something like that. But that is much more fair. It makes me much more likely to bring them. Reason being, you get 3 separate blast weapons, ectoplasmic cannons, 3d3 attacks. If you go into a big horde or something, so like orcs, chaos cultists, anything like that, you get an additional 12 attacks baseline. He rolls 6 average. 18 attacks at strength 10, -3 AP, 3 damage each. You never forget, you can bust it up to -4 AP. You give him ignores cover. This guy is ultra killy, like one of the more killy units in the entire game. He also has dev wounds on top of that if you want it. Oh man, yeah, Forgefiend, like just like the Defiler, I'm excited I can start bringing this guy again, because sadly he did start to like, he did get to start being like a rare sight once his points went up so high. I even think 190 is a little too spendy. I would think 180, even just 185. I know it's not much, but like every point counts. I think that'd be much more viable. But either way, Forgefiend, if you've been wanting to run this guy, because look at how beautiful his model is. If you've been wanting to run this guy, go on ahead and bring him back. Last up, so on the same token, we got Maulerfiend. So this guy dropped 10 points. He's now 130. That is a steal for this guy. I've been using Maulerfiends all the time before anyways, and dude, and they do exceptional. Threat saturation and like distraction card effects, they are so good at that. They are ultra killy as well, especially into like big stuff, vehicles, and that's the stuff that you want, you know, ultra killy units for. Me personally, I always do the magma cutters because you get 2 of them, man. Suddenly you get 4 strength 9 -4 AP d6 damage attacks. So into elites and infantry, it's just gonna annihilate them, and into vehicles, it'll do all right, especially if you get like the sustained. I wouldn't really, well, yeah, you could use lethals if you wanted, because it's shooting phase. It's not going to affect your Maulerfiend fist. Speaking of, in melee, he would have 6 attacks, hit strength 14, -2 AP, d6 +1 damage. This guy also is a great choice for the tank shock stratagem. Now, unfortunately, Siege Crawler did get changed. You no longer can reroll the advance and charges, which sucks, man. That used to be a big deal. That was fantastic. But you do get to ignore any modifiers to your move, advance, and charge. That every now and then will have some value. There are some sneaky units out there, though, like reduce your move and charge ranges, so this guy won't have any issue with it. For 130, I think Maulerfiend, I think he's more than fair, and definitely, you're going to start seeing this guy more. Look at how sexy his freaking model is, too. Like, who doesn't want to bring that? But speaking of, that makes me want to run the Lasher Tendrils, even though I much prefer the Magma Cutters. But either way, yeah, dude, at 130, I very much think this guy has a bit more pop than he used to. Overall, man, like I said, so I had to cut out a bunch of choices. I basically could have showed the entire CSM codex, because aside from the damned units, pretty much everything is valid here. That said, so a few, like, real good, like, quick note on a few combos. We already went over them, honestly, for the most part, but Terminator Sorcerer plus a Predator, that is a huge deal, plus the Let the Galaxy Burn. You essentially give your Predator +3 AP equivalent, and by the way, everything else in the army is still going to take advantage of the +1 AP as well. Again, you can toss a Disco Lord in there, so maybe you want to reroll wound rolls of 1 as well. That is memey. Disco Lord's way too expensive, but hey, maybe you're there for fun. What I really like, too, don't forget, the Lord still has his Chaos Lord ability, so you can use that the battle tactic again. So maybe you got I don't know, some sort of shooty unit, or, or, you know, it's free value. If it's free, why not use it? But you can use the Let the Galaxy Burn again, so 2 units can take advantage of the Sorcerer's Death Hex. And then, one that I didn't, like, specifically point out, I don't think, Huron. Dude, Huron plus the Millennia of Experience stratagem, you would get 2 reactive moves if they came near your Huron ability. Because Huron's ability is, yeah, if a unit comes within 9 inches, I believe he rolls a d6, and that's how far he moves. But you played that stratagem as well. Now you're moving 6 inches plus d6. You move 12 inches. You get into your opponent's deployment zone, get onto an objective, you name all sorts of crazy stuff. I think that's a really fun little combo. And then lastly, Defiler and the Bringers of Despair stratagem for 2 units. One of them will fight first, like before anybody else, and then Defiler is going to fight directly after the enemy does, and then you can do the counterattack stratagem on top of that. Like, yeah, dude, it gets pretty wild. Yeah, that was that. When I like noticed that one, that definitely like opened up some ideas in my head. So I'm hoping this again sparks a light bulb in your head as well for some of the fun little builds that you can go for. Speaking of fun builds, I got some lists I want to show y'all. So, first of all, huge disclaimer, these are not, like, hyper-optimized yet, especially the third one, which is, like, the one I'm, like, most hyped about. It's not hyper-optimized yet, but, again, the whole point of these, like, videos, and especially the list, is to give you ideas of some of the, like, themes, combos, builds you can go for. So, to start off, so this is the fluffy one. This one brings Abaddon. Let's take a look. I always forget the list whenever I have to load them, but, yeah, that's right. All right, goes Abaddon. So, I was planning, I'm going to take heavy advantage of his 4-up invul ability. So I went very infantry heavy, if you didn't notice. I even brought freaking Obliterators of all things. Now, they did get a price break, only 10 points. Really wish they went a little further. Another 10 would have been very valid. But at 170, when you get, like, the Focus of Hatred, so reroll all those hits, that does have some, like, genuine value to it. On top of that, we brought 2 bricks of Legionaries with the Chaos Lords, so you're able to double up your pleasurement when it comes to the battle tactics, definitely like that. Now, we are running Veterans of the Long War, so you gotta bring along Chosen. I did only bring 2 Min squads. That is something you can change. Instead of Legionaries, you can go like Chosen if you're really going for the heavy hitters. That said, Legionaries, man, don't forget, they reroll all their wounds, they got the heavy melee weapons, they're really not that far behind these guys. If I'd been smart and brought a Sorcerer Terminator Lord, you could also boost up their AP by an additional 1. On top of that, so we got Obliterators, and then for anti-tank, I brought 3 squads of Havocs. I think, because I really want anti-tank in this detachment, and you notice I don't have any vehicles at all, I think I'd go 3 las cannon, like all 3 squads with las cannons this time. That said, the other route, and one that you definitely would consider, definitely need to like test and like theorycraft, make one of them the Reaper chain cannons instead. Now we got anti-Horde. That said, you do have Obliterators that should help play into that. Now, I did bring some lowly cultists, but you still need something to sit back on the objective. Freaking 50 points, man. I'm going to bring it pretty much every single time, especially with the sticky. That's like one of the biggest parts. Once they sticky that objective, then they can rush up the board and start helping sticking the central objectives. And then on top of that, Warp Talons, dude. These guys, they're already all-stars in the army period. They're all-stars in 10th edition period, and this list especially, this detachment especially, they are super all-stars. Again, reroll all hits, all wounds, basically always, unless you're not targeting your Focus of Hatred, which will come from time to time. When they go back into Strat Reserves, that is giant. Again, you can keep them there until turn 5 if you need to. Maybe you went second, you get to score at the very end of the game. There will be times when that comes up. Again, I think this, while it leans fluffier, I do think this is like fairly competitive. I would have no problem like running this on the table, and you know what'd be awesome? It'd be damn fun, dude. That'd be a huge part of it. Now, I will say, obviously there's some changes. Transports would be fantastic. Some rhinos, so that like indirect doesn't just obliterate your legionaries. That would be pretty big there. And on top of that, you're almost always going to hear me say this, but could use some Nurglings. Could always use some Nurglings. But regardless, so this was my first idea of a list with Abaddon. And again, man, I think it's solid. I think it's perfectly fine. Just like this detachment, I think it's very solid. Next up, though, I went with the Huron combo. So again, like I mentioned earlier, Huron can, he already has his own reactive move. You top on the Stratagem for an additional reactive move. You're moving 6 inch plus D6. That is gigantic, man. People are not going to be able to charge these guys. Now, I did give them Legionaries. I believe you can give them Chosen instead, which definitely is a viable route. Again, so we brought 3 Warp Talons this time. I'm pretty sure every single list I have has the Warp Talons. I did bring Rhinos, so I did bring some transports this time. We got 2 Min squads of Legionaries just to hold down objectives. Again, we got the Cultists. And then I want to experiment with it. So I did the Rubrics with the Bolters. That way, again, they can do the reroll all hits and all wounds when you use their datasheet ability. So that's pretty powerful there. Forgefiends to help give me some anti-tank and take out infantry, and then 3 freaking Predators, because why wouldn't I? Oh, and that's right, of course, I was going to say, where's the, Terminator Sorcerer, because again, you can do the combo. With the Let the Galaxy Burn stratagem, you're getting 3 AP equivalent into any infantry target. It is gigantic, man. This, I do think, is probably more powerful than the Abaddon build. Like this, I would say this is a tournament list, for sure, man. Yeah, 100%, especially with 3 Warp Talents, very much, I think this could hold its own, even at a tournament. Feel free to check it out on your end. By the way, the army lists are all in the description below. So again, if you guys want to tweak them or take a look at them on your end, by all means, check that out. And then finally, the third one. So this one very much needs some tweaking. Basically, what I decided on this one is when I realized that, oh shit, Defiler combos with the fight first and everything. So what if I brought as many, like, fight first or melee bombs as I possibly could? So, dude, this is fun. And actually, I haven't ran them yet, and I need to. A 10-man blob of Warp Talons. Can you imagine how killy that's going to be? That's going to be one of the stronger, like, melee units in the game. Even World Eaters are going to hate it. By the way, that's the thing with this list. This counters melee, like hard counters melee, man. You got fight first on Warp Talons. They're not going to be able to touch those guys. And then again, Defiler, hopefully he gets to do his counterattack. And do remember the timing of the stuff. So it's only free if somebody else had already used it. So somebody else would need to use the counterattack, and then you can use it on the Defiler. I think that's huge. Beyond that, I brought a Lord and then a Sorcerer. Going to be a common theme. Mauler Fiends, they went down in points. They're totally acceptable now. They're totally usable. They always have been, but now they're even cheaper. Like, very much I think you can bring them. They play into the threat saturation. Again, we're going full, like, melee bomb overload. We got a bomb of Chosen as well. We got the Helbrute. He also would go the dual melee weapon, so he'd be rushing up the board along with the 3 freaking Mauler Fiends, the freaking bomb of Chosen, the freaking bomb of Possessed, the freaking bomb of Warp Talons. Yeah, dude, I think it's pretty nutso. I guess if that's going to change something, some cultists would be helpful. Cultists to hold down the rear objective or sticky stuff. And then, as always, Nurglings. Nurglings would be fantastic. I could see Rhinos as well. But this is, dude, this is a big one I want you guys to think about. Is the fight first stratagem. How can you take advantage of it? Totally, you could, like, get rid of the Chosen, get rid of the Possessed. A lot of people don't really care for Possessed. I understand where you're coming from. I will say the Sorcerer will help bring them up a notch. Getting to AP2 is a pretty big deal, especially with these guys. They did get a points break, by the way. On a full 10-man squad, you'd save 10 points. Every bit adds up. Warp Talons, though, the 10-man, if you're going this style, 100% I would keep them in there. Either way, though, so this, too, I think is a very powerful list. It needs to be optimized. I basically just threw in every, like, super melee threat I could think of. I'm sure there's ways you could, like, definitely, like, tweak it to be even better. I would love to hear your guys' opinions, not only on this list, but the others, and also of your own experiences with Veterans of the Long War. Are they boring? Like, do you not like that they basically have Oaths of Moment? Or have you gotten to put them on the table and see how they perform? Like I've said a bunch, I think it's such a solid detachment and go any playstyle. Look, we got super shooting, we got super melee, we got, like, pretty rounded super infantry. You go full on, oh yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the style myself. Everybody has their own playstyle. I'm not really bashing it. But of course, you got the Abaddon Castle, man. You could just bring 3 Vindicators, 3 Predators, 3 Forgefiends, like all that wild stuff with Abaddon, and just reroll all your hits versus everything. Even without Abaddon, your Focus of Hatred, you're already rerolling everything. You got millions. Like, what's like a way you couldn't use this list? If you guys can't tell, I'm pretty hyped on Veterans of the Long War. Like I said in the very, very beginning, when I first learned about this detachment, I was like, well, okay, I knew it was good. I was like, yeah, that looks solid or whatever. But as I prepared for this video and I got to play a game with them the other night, I was totally like, damn, dude, like, these guys really do pop off. But again, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on Veterans of the Long War. If you guys have any suggestions for future videos, I'm all ears. I'm about halfway through with the detachment reviews. So if you guys are interested in the other detachments, definitely check those out. I think I've like the Fellhammer one, I really enjoyed doing. Chaos Cults, I had the exact same experience. Chaos Cults, if you watch that video, it's hilarious. Like, pay attention. The first half of that video, I am super down on them. I keep talking about, oh, I hate to be a downer, but this all sucks, the enhancement sucks, blah, blah, blah. And then right when I started loading the list, I'm like, wait, this might be meta warping, dude. I do think Chaos Cults, I think they're a sneaky, like, ultra competitive army. I think they might start winning tournaments, and people are going to have to, like, change their list. It depends. Like, it's not going to be that common for people to own 266 models to post on the table or whatever, but it is a fun route to go. Either way, as always, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. At the very least, if you haven't already, give the video a thumbs up if you guys could. It's not a big deal, like, it's not why I do these videos, but I do have a Patreon set up. I do have a couple Patreons. If you guys are watching right now, like, dude, you guys rock. I appreciate you. Like, thank you very much for supporting the channel. There is overhead with this stuff. The internet gets expensive with all the uploads. My last bill was 150 bucks. I might change my ISP or whatever, but there is some overhead involved. These videos take many hours to put together. This video today actually went quicker than normal, and I'm like 6 hours in or something. Anyways, that's for me to care about. But regardless, thank you guys for watching. I hope you got some really fun ideas from this. Let me know what you think, and good luck out there, guys.